Sheikh Amir Al-Nasr and Leila Sayeed thought they could hide their secrets in a Beverly Hills mansion, but one night, betrayal turned deadly, and what police discovered shocked the world. Sheikh Amir Al-Nasr stepped off the private jet onto the tarmac of Los Angeles, his designer sunglasses hiding eyes that had seen more power and wealth than most could imagine. The Dubai billionaire was known for his sharp business acumen, but few truly understood the secrets he carried. The press had followed his every move for years, fascinated by his lavish lifestyle, but Amir had grown tired of the constant attention. He had purchased a sprawling mansion in Beverly Hills, a place where he could retreat from the world, surrounded by security, luxury, and absolute privacy. The mansion itself was a masterpiece of modern architecture, with marble floors, high ceilings, and priceless art lining the walls. Exotic cars gleamed under the Californian sun, each more extravagant than the last, and a private pool reflected the perfect image of serenity. Yet beneath the surface of this flawless exterior, the mansion held its own secrets. Private rooms concealed safes, hidden cameras monitored every corner, and a labyrinth of corridors led to areas few were ever allowed to see. Amir was a man of routine, meticulous in his planning, but even he could not predict the events that were about to unfold. As he walked through the main hall, he noticed small details, a misplaced vase, a slightly ajar door, that made his instincts tingle. There was a sense that something was off, though he couldn't pinpoint it. Later that evening, guests would arrive, but tonight he would be alone with his thoughts and the presence of someone he trusted less than he believed. In this mansion, wealth offered protection, but it could not shield him from the shadows of betrayal, desire, and danger that were quietly gathering around him. The weekend, which was meant to be an escape, was about to turn into a nightmare no one could have anticipated. Leila Sayeed had arrived at the mansion just as the sun dipped behind the hills, her presence a mixture of elegance and mystery that immediately drew attention. To the outside world, she was a glamorous socialite, attending exclusive events and charming Dubai's elite, but beneath that polished exterior lay a woman with secrets that could destroy anyone who got close. She had cultivated a reputation of sophistication and loyalty, yet her past was marked by carefully concealed schemes and risky ventures that few suspected. She moved through the mansion with a confident ease, familiar with its hidden corridors and private rooms, showing that her visits were far from casual. Amir, who was known for his careful judgment in all matters of business and life, had allowed her into this secluded world, trusting her in ways he rarely trusted anyone. Their relationship, while discreet, had become a regular affair, with late-night meetings that were always carefully timed to avoid suspicion. Still, there was an undercurrent of tension every time she arrived. Subtle glances, whispered phone calls, and coded messages hinted that not everything was as it seemed. Leila's intentions were shrouded in layers of charm, seduction, and cunning, and she seemed to know how to manipulate situations to her advantage. While Amir believed he was the one in control, observers might have seen a different picture, a woman quietly weaving her influence, testing boundaries, and probing for weaknesses. As night fell and the mansion settled into silence, Leila's presence cast a shadow over the estate, a reminder that even in places of opulence and security, trust could be dangerous, and the line between desire and danger was razor-thin. The night had begun like any other, with the mansion bathed in soft lighting and the distant hum of the city below, but it ended in chaos that no one could have anticipated. Sheikh Amir and Leila were discovered lifeless in the master bedroom, the scene a shocking contrast to the elegance that usually defined the mansion. Shattered glass sparkled across the marble floors, a priceless vase lay in pieces near the bed, and furniture was overturned as if a storm had swept through the room. Blood stains told a story of violence and struggle, yet there were no signs of forced entry, no alarms triggered, and no immediate explanation for the horror. At first, investigators suspected a robbery, but the mansion's most valuable items remained untouched, deepening the mystery. The security system, designed to be infallible, showed no indication of intrusion, leaving detectives with more questions than answers. Even the most seasoned officers could feel the tension in the air as they examined the room, sensing that the scene was more than a simple crime, it was a calculated act of betrayal. Every detail, from the broken picture frames to the small, out-of-place objects, suggested a story hidden beneath the surface. The initial shock of discovering two prominent figures dead was compounded by the eerie precision of the scene, as if someone had wanted to send a message or perhaps mask the real motive entirely. What began as an evening of quiet luxury had turned into a nightmare, one that would unravel secrets about power, trust, and desire, and force the world to question everything it thought it knew about Sheikh Amir and the woman he trusted most. Detective Eleanor Hayes arrived at the mansion as the sun rose, her reputation for solving the most intricate and baffling cases preceding her. She moved carefully through the scene, taking note of every small detail that others might have overlooked, the slight smudges on the floor, the angle of the broken furniture, and the faint traces of fingerprints on a drawer that had been left slightly open. Nothing about the crime fit a typical pattern. There were no signs of forced entry, no stolen valuables, and no obvious motive, making the case immediately perplexing. As she reviewed the security footage, a strange figure appeared on the perimeter cameras hours before the murders, wearing a disguise that concealed their identity entirely. Eleanor felt a chill as she realized that whoever had committed the act had intimate knowledge of the mansion's layout, security system, and the routines of its inhabitants. Interviews with neighbors and staff revealed snippets of unusual activity, late-night visitors, unexplained phone calls, and subtle shifts in behavior, but nothing concrete. Each piece of evidence seemed to contradict the last, creating a web of confusion that only deepened the mystery. Despite the chaos of the crime scene, Eleanor's mind worked methodically, connecting subtle clues that pointed to a carefully orchestrated plot rather than a spontaneous act. The more she uncovered, the clearer it became that this was not a random incident, it was a calculated, premeditated act that required planning, knowledge, and daring. With each step, the detective realized that the layers of deception surrounding Sheikh Amir and Leila ran far deeper than anyone had imagined, and that uncovering the truth would force her to confront secrets that powerful people would do anything to keep hidden. As Detective Hayes and her team dug deeper, they uncovered a shocking financial trail that added an unexpected layer to the investigation. Sheikh Amir had maintained a secret offshore account, hidden from even his closest associates, where millions of dollars had recently been moved in a series of complex transactions. The recipient of these transfers was unknown, and the timing, just days before his death, raised immediate red flags. Forensic accountants meticulously traced the money, discovering that the account was tied to a network of shell companies spanning several countries, suggesting that someone close to Amir had planned to siphon his wealth. The revelation expanded the list of potential suspects, including business partners, distant relatives, and even trusted household staff, anyone who had both access and motive. What was particularly disturbing was that the transfers appeared to be orchestrated with knowledge of Amir's personal schedule, implying an insider's involvement. The financial evidence suggested greed was at play, but the violence of the murders hinted at a more personal motive, one fueled by betrayal, obsession, or revenge. Detectives began to consider the possibility that Amir's death was not just about money, it was the culmination of a carefully planned scheme designed to eliminate him and anyone who stood in the way. Every lead opened another layer of deception, revealing alliances that were anything but loyal and intentions that were darker than anyone could have predicted. The investigation was no longer just about solving a murder, it was about untangling a web of secrets, greed, and calculated betrayal, and the more Detective Hayes uncovered, the more dangerous the truth seemed to become for those involved. As the investigation unfolded, the focus shifted to Leila Sayeed, whose glamorous exterior hid a turbulent and dangerous past. Detectives discovered that she had a history of involvement in high-profile fraud cases across Europe, often disappearing just before authorities could catch her. Her arrival in the United States under an assumed identity raised immediate suspicions, suggesting that her relationship with Sheikh Amir might have been carefully calculated rather than born of affection. Records revealed that she had recently acquired multiple properties and luxury assets in offshore accounts, raising questions about the source of her wealth. Investigators also uncovered a trail of personal connections that linked her to influential figures in finance and organized crime, indicating that she had both the means and the cunning to manipulate powerful individuals. Even the mansion staff hinted at her unusual behaviors, secret phone calls, coded messages, and visits to restricted areas of the estate that should have been off-limits. Every discovery painted a picture of a woman skilled in deception, whose charm masked a capacity for manipulation and betrayal. Detectives began to suspect that Leila may have engineered more than just a romantic liaison. She could have been positioning herself to gain access to Amir's fortune and secrets. While Amir had believed he was in control, evidence suggested he may have underestimated the lengths Leila would go to achieve her goals. As police pieced together her past, it became increasingly clear that the seemingly intimate affair had layers of danger, greed, and premeditation, and that Leila's true motives might be far deadlier than anyone had anticipated. As the investigation progressed, attention turned to Amir's longtime business rival, Karim Tariq, a man whose resentment toward the Sheikh was well known in financial circles. Karim had suffered significant losses in recent deals, many of which had been orchestrated or outmaneuvered by Amir, fueling a public feud that had drawn media attention. Witnesses placed Karim near the mansion days before the murders, raising immediate suspicion, yet initial evidence began to suggest that he might have been set up. Digital forensics revealed manipulated security footage and falsified communication logs that seemed designed to implicate him, pointing to an intricate plot rather than a straightforward act of revenge. Detectives realized that someone with deep knowledge of both the mansion and the investigative process was trying to divert attention, creating a smokescreen that would protect the true perpetrators. The complexity of the deception suggested inside assistance, and every clue led back to those with intimate access to Amir's personal life and private estate. Karim's involvement, while initially plausible, began to look more like a convenient distraction, carefully designed to throw police off the real trail. Detectives now faced a web of lies, forged evidence, and hidden agendas, forcing them to question every assumption they had made. It became apparent that the true mastermind was not a rival seeking revenge but someone far closer, someone who knew Amir's routines, his secrets, and the vulnerabilities of his trusted circle. Each discovery intensified the tension, revealing that the murder was a calculated and cunning act, where appearances were deliberately misleading and trust had become the most dangerous gamble of all. The mansion's butler, Rahim Khalid, who had always been regarded as loyal and discreet, suddenly became a person of intense interest as investigators uncovered unsettling evidence about his involvement. While he had managed the estate with flawless precision for years, phone records and hidden communications revealed that he had been in secret contact with Leila Sayeed, exchanging messages that hinted at coordination and planning. Rahim had unparalleled access to the mansion's security system, including cameras, alarm protocols, and entry points, which allowed him to manipulate the estate's surveillance and create false impressions of who was coming and going. Forensic analysis confirmed that footage from the night of the murders had been tampered with, erasing critical moments and fabricating alibis, all pointing to Rahim as the architect behind the confusion. His role as a trusted insider had enabled him to orchestrate events with precision, setting the stage for the murders while keeping suspicion away from himself and Leila. Investigators realized that Rahim had likely anticipated the arrival of anyone who might interfere, using his knowledge of Amir's routines to exploit vulnerabilities in both security and human trust. Every detail of the mansion, from hidden passages to seemingly mundane service tasks, had been leveraged in a plan that combined greed, betrayal, and careful manipulation. Rahim's calm exterior masked a mind capable of calculated deceit, and it became increasingly clear that he had not just assisted but masterminded the events that led to the violent deaths of Amir and Leila. In a house that was supposed to be a sanctuary of wealth and control, the one person least suspected had turned the very foundations of trust into instruments of murder. The investigation took an astonishing turn when detectives uncovered evidence suggesting that Sheikh Amir had anticipated betrayal long before his death. Hidden within the mansion's private safe was a series of encrypted files and metadata pointing to a video recording he had made, one that could reveal the true sequence of events leading to the murders. Though the actual footage had been erased, forensic experts were able to trace remnants indicating that Amir had captured confessions and interactions that implicated both Leila and Rahim, proving that he had been aware of their scheming. The revelation sent shockwaves through the investigative team, as it became clear that Amir had been playing a dangerous game of foresight, attempting to document the truth in case he was harmed. Evidence suggested that Rahim had discovered Amir's plan and tried to erase it, but traces of the data remained, offering the police a digital breadcrumb trail straight to the butler's involvement. The meticulous premeditation on Amir's part and the calculated destruction of his recordings highlighted the deadly chess game unfolding in the mansion, where every action had been anticipated and every move countered. Detectives realized that the murders were not just a simple act of greed or passion but the culmination of a carefully orchestrated betrayal, one that combined deception, manipulation, and the exploitation of intimate trust. The hidden recordings, though incomplete, provided the crucial insight that shifted the investigation, confirming Rahim as the mastermind while exposing Leila's manipulative role. It became a chilling reminder that even the most powerful and cautious individuals could be ensnared by those they trusted most, and that in a house built on wealth and security, secrets were both the weapon and the undoing. Rahim Khalid was arrested in a quiet, pre-dawn operation, his calm demeanor barely masking the tension as detectives led him away from the mansion he had manipulated so meticulously. Leila Sayeed, meanwhile, had vanished, resurfacing under a new identity in Europe, leaving authorities to piece together her role from fragments of evidence and digital traces. The trial that followed exposed layers of greed, deceit, and calculated malice, confirming Rahim as the mastermind while revealing how deeply he had exploited Amir's trust. Yet, even with justice seemingly served, questions lingered, whispers of hidden accomplices, undiscovered accounts, and secrets that Amir's powerful family may have chosen to bury. The mansion, once a symbol of wealth, control, and security, stood empty, a silent monument to betrayal and ambition, its halls echoing the violent events that had unfolded within. Observers speculated that Amir's foresight had prevented even greater disasters, but the case remained a chilling reminder that power and privilege could not protect against the cunning of those closest to you. In the end, the story of Sheikh Amir and Leila became more than a tale of murder. It was a narrative of human vulnerability, the danger of misplaced trust, and the deadly consequences of hidden motives. The tragedy left an indelible mark on everyone involved, a haunting lesson that wealth, luxury, and influence cannot shield anyone from the darkest aspects of human nature, and that even in the most opulent settings, betrayal and danger can lurk in the shadows, waiting for the perfect moment to strike.